Who's LabVIEW? Oh, sometimes. Well, you mostly don't during the episode. But sometimes you slobber boot. When you're not watching it. Look at me. Make weird slobbering noises. Well, I'm certainly not attempting. But you don't do it during the show. You do it other times. Like chewing on gum some other time, you'll look at me and go, oh, yes. On it. I munch. Is that what that is? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. But you don't do it during the show. That's right. The only thing you do during the show that annoys me is when you eat the stupid ice out of your coffee things. But you haven't done it in a while. Yeah, because it's this clank, and then you're crunching, and then clank, and oh God. Stop. And you haven't done that recently. That's good. Yeah.
Hey there.
Hey, Petter.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Let's see. This presentation mode is hooray. Can you see my presentation?
I see you right now.
Let's see. Share. Aha. Okay, that should be work. That should work.
There you go.
All right. Well, I hope somebody else joins because I have at least 2 other people giving presentations.
Oh, we didn't get my presentation in.
Excuse me?
You didn't get my presentation in today?
I can if you'd like.
Oh, there seems to be an overlap with John.
Right, and mine overlaps with his as well. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Do you know what he's going to talk about?
Yeah, SystemLink.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically a way to automate your
deployment. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And runtime installations. Okay.
Yeah. So mine's a rehash of what I did 4 years ago because they've totally changed how you do it. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Hey, it's
Yeah, so I did something on SystemLink Cloud. I
yeah, I
did a
remember that.
presentation. Yeah. Yeah, it all depends. I mean, I can.
You can certainly do that if you'd like. It's just a matter of let's see there. Let's see. So what do you want to call it?
Share your data.
Excuse me?
Share your data.
Good enough?
Yeah, share your data, cloud services or something like that. Yeah. So we're more or less, we're going to look at one specific, I mean, I guess he's going to talk about one specific part of the SystemLink.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about another part of it. So
Yep.
I'm not going to talk about the server. I'm just going to talk about the cloud version. So
okay. Let's see. Give people a couple more minutes to join.
I had a problem joining. The link that you sent didn't work, and so I had to go directly to Zoom and then type in the account and passcode.
Okay.
For some reason, the direct link said, can't find that. It's like, okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, it might take people a few minutes to get in if they're having that problem too.
Huh. Did you have a problem with Better?
I actually pasted the link into my Zoom, and it just then said, yeah, I think it was fine. I didn't notice. I had to put in the passcode separately.
Okay.
Yeah, normally you don't have to put in the passcode if you just click on the
That's right.
one
Yeah,
that's
you're
got
right.
the full name in there.
Yeah. No, I didn't take the whole thing, but it managed to get the right meeting ID.
Yeah. Okay. Strange. Well, I don't know what to say.
That's
Well,
fine.
I got it anyway.
Yeah. Let's see. So we're missing. Well, Sam's supposed to present. I actually spoke to him earlier today, so.
It's a little bit late, maybe. Are you going to the DevCon stuff?
I am.
Yeah, maybe one should.
Yeah.
Now when it's closed as well.
Yeah, it's certainly convenient. So.
Yeah, yeah. Have you done it? No. Is this the first time on this side?
Yeah, he was going to do it last year, but you know, we all know what happened.
Yeah.
So. Well, see, a few more people have joined. Yeah, I don't know where Sam's hiding. So, everybody want to get started?
Sure, let's start.
Well, I don't know where John was there briefly, but he's run away. So. Well, I guess we'll just get going. Back when this was a live thing, we'd introduce ourselves. So I don't know, does anybody feel the urge to introduce themselves?
Sure, I can do that.
I'll go for it. I'm Ben Manthey. I work for a company in Boulder called Micromotion. Worked there for a long time, and I've been programming LabVIEW for, I don't know, 17 years or something. I'm not a CLA or one of those things. I've just been doing LabVIEW on my own. I mostly joined this because I'm interested in meeting other people who did LabVIEW. So I'd have somebody to bounce ideas off, because for a long time I was the only person there doing LabVIEW. It's good to meet other people that do it. It's good to get some feedback that I'm doing sensible things. So I'm glad we can have a meeting again. It's been a year, and I hope we can keep going with this, and somebody can volunteer for the next one in 2 months. So welcome back.
So Peter Weibring, I work half-time at CU, build scientific instrumentation for airborne platforms. I've been doing LabVIEW since '94, but I do it as a part. That's just a part of what I do. Then I run a startup on the side, which does methane sensors. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, Les Hammer. I've been doing LabVIEW since about 2003 or so. We had a startup company back then, and then I taught for 14 years down at Colorado School of Mines. We did LabVIEW in our classroom there, and I'm retired now, so But I take an occasional job.
Great, thanks. Ed signed in, but he hasn't said a word, so.
Hey, I'm Matt Sharp. I also work at the same company as Ben in Boulder at Micromotion. Been programming LabVIEW about coming up on 5 years. And yeah, just use it to functionally test some of the electronics and fix other people's code that I run across. Yeah, this is the second meeting I've been to. I think I just had gone to one prior to the big break, so fairly new to these meetings.
Ed said he's in another meeting that's running long, so.
Hey, I'm Giannangeli. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I'm Giannangeli, and I started using LabVIEW and TestStand in 1993. TestStand was a toolkit back then, not a product. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. Started my own consulting company in 2004. It changed names in 2011 to Boulder Software. Still doing that. And I've been involved with the alarm group for quite a while. I think I got started in probably 2005 or 6 and did their original website before, and I took all that stuff over. So I've been kind of absent from the user group for the last couple of years, but thought I'd pop my head into this meeting and see how it's going.
Great, thank you.
I'm John Lehman, and I have a scientific instrument company, mostly geophysical instruments. I was actually out there in Colorado and was active in the group when I was there, but I've moved the business to Northwest Arkansas. So I'm really happy that some of these are virtual, so I can join, as there is nobody doing LabVIEW around me at all. But yes, we're mostly in geophysics. I've been doing LabVIEW since about 2009 or so, and I'm a CLD.
Cool.
And thanks, Ben, for putting this together. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad I could pester people into presenting. So, all right, Sam has still not joined, so but he's supposed to present, so we're just going to keep going. Oh,
Can
hi there.
I introduce myself?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
I wonder if you can see me, but my name is Qingchun Zhao.
Yeah, we can
I've
see.
been doing LabVIEW like for over 15 years, and I've been in the lab alarm group for quite a while too, maybe over 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, should we just dive into this? Okay. So, simplifying LabVIEW Runtime installation. So, talk about this. So, a lot of times when you install something, or you want to install Runtime on your users' computers, you end up having to install multiple items, multiple reboots, and it's pretty painful. And so how can you simplify that? You can certainly use LabVIEW installers. You can use the installer function that's built in, and it doesn't really work very well. So this is, I think, a better way to do it, certainly an improvement. I think John's going to talk about an even better way to do it. So, so if you've been with the group for a couple of years, this seems awfully familiar. Because 4 years ago, I presented on exactly this subject. And the reason I'm doing it again is because with LabVIEW 2020, they've totally changed it. So it's nice to update this, let people know there's a new system out there, a little bit of how to use it. So like I said earlier, LabVIEW, when you use the installer that's built into your project, makes these huge files. They're hard to distribute in general, especially over the internet. And typically you don't need to do it more than once. I mean, you do it on your user's computer, and you don't have to do it ever again. So why bother? Also, that installer is kind of junky. it doesn't pick all the pieces you actually need. So you have to go through and dig through it and pick out the parts you actually want. And some things just aren't in there. Like I have Foundation Field Bus installed on some of my systems, and there's no way to pick it. You have to install it independently, no matter what. And it has some other weird limitations. If you want to make certain directories, you can't, you just can't do it. You can't put shortcuts on the desktop, stuff like that. It's all sort of klutzy. And I guess the other thing is you can't make an installer that's just the runtime stuff. You can't exclude your actual main executable from it. So you're stuck always including your executable, which may not be what you want to do. So it's pretty painful to use. So in the past, I would just take each runtime, and I've had up to 6 of them on some of my runtime machines, install them all, install one, install the next one, reboot every time. And also you have to build them in, you have to install them in the correct order. Otherwise LabVIEW gets confused about where things are, how do you make it work? It's pretty klutzy. It's pretty painful. You have to make explicit instructions if you want to hand it to somebody else. So there is a better way, so we're going to talk about in a minute. So I only take my executable, my main program, and compile that into an executable with LabVIEW's project, and then I don't use anything else from the installer. And then I use a third-party tool. It's called InnoSetup. It's listed down here. And then you just distribute your executable with InnoSetup. And it's super functional. You can make all the directories and shortcuts. You can edit registries. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff in it. So it's super nice to use. And that's how I distribute my executables to my users. So I'll tell my users, hey, there's a new version, go grab it. They know where it is, and off they go. So it's a way more convenient. You don't end up moving multi-gigabyte files around more than once. So how do I do it in a better way? They used to have a system called NI Batch Installer Builder, and that was up until LabVIEW 2019. And it worked fine. I did this same presentation on it, and they got rid of it in 2020. And now they have the NI Package Builder, which does a bunch of stuff. I don't know what it does. Builds packages, I don't know. But it does allow you to do this same function of combining multiple NI installers into one. And then your user only has to install one thing. Let's see. I think it's included with Professional. I'm really not sure how you end up with it. And it's not hard to use. So, oh, and I should mention, if you need to, you can run command line parameters on it for a totally silent install. I have tried that. I don't really like it because you have no idea when it's done. So if your user reboots their computer while it's running, too bad. So yeah, it's a bit weird. So what's it doing in the background? I don't know. It's doing something. It's combining files. The nice thing is it does put them in the right order for you. And that's pretty nice. And the other, it'd be nice if it eliminated redundant files. You don't need to install Max 4 times. I don't think it does that. I think it just mashes them all together for you, but I have no real evidence of that. So any questions about all that? Okay. So intro to NI Package Builder, what is it? So you've got it installed, you start it, you get this big crazy screen of what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels. It's a lot of panels. I don't know what they all do. But right here is installers and repositories, and that's the only one I care about. So it's pretty simple. First thing you want to do is get all your installers together. If they're already installed in your machine, you don't need to do anything. If it's something you want to include but you don't have installed, download it from the intranet, or the internet rather. And there's an option in there that says offline install, choose that, download the whole thing. If it's something big, it'll take a while, of course. And they're .iso files. And so you can extract them to their own directory with 7-zip. I think you can just double click on them and they mount like a CD or something like that. And you can just drag files out of them. All kinds of things you do to get them out of there. Pay attention to what version you have. It's just helpful, I guess. And then there are some things that are still a little weird. Like if you want the TDMS XL plugin, if you just go online and try and download it, it's the some older version of LabVIEW. I don't remember, it's 18 or something. But this tool won't let you install it as an executable. It has to be in this other format. So install it on your computer. And especially with TDMS XL plugin, you can then upgrade it to a newer version with the NI package manager. So it's kind of a goofy way to get to it, but it works. Or you can just install it, I guess, straight from the package manager. So get everything ready. Make sure you've got all your files where you need them or where you know where they are. Everything you care about is ready to go. So making a new solution. So in this package builder, everything's called a solution. And so right click on this little thing here and say, make a new package installer. It's this little plus here under the word installer. Give it a name. I just called it my installer here. And then find an output directory. So it's going to make a file, or it's going to make a install.exe file in there, and then a whole bunch of subdirectories with all this stuff crammed in it. So give it a place to go. Hopefully that it's not too confusing to find the stuff, or it's not mixed in with things you care about. And then file save, just like you used to. You'll be asked to give it a name. And it comes with, it ends up with a dot. I don't recall what the name of it's .pbs. So new solution, whatever you felt like calling it. So save that as well. And you're ready to start adding things. So I'll go back here. So the next little thing to click on is where is it? It's one of these little things here. This one, I think. And you'll say add, so you can do two things. You can add packages or add installers. So packages are things that are already installed on your computer. So scroll around, check all the things you want, or you can go and pick one of those things that you've you've unzipped and select them under installer products. And the nice thing is you can pick sub pieces of this. So if there's something that has a bunch of pieces that you don't need them all, just check the ones you care about, hit add, and they'll be added to your solution. And then save everything, obviously, and then choose build all here. And be prepared to go get a cup of coffee or something, because it's pretty tedious. Takes a while. It'll build everything for you. I don't have a live demo because I don't have LabVIEW 2020 on this machine. So, and at the end of that, you'll have this big directory with everything for you. So you can then zip that up or just move it onto a pen drive and just hand it to people that are interested in, that need it. So, is that, any questions about that? Sam, you can't hear you at all. It's very noisy. All right. I don't know what that was, but it's lot of feedback from Sam's computer. There's Sam. Sure. So if you have a new thing you want to build an installer for you, how do you figure out what you need to bring across? You could use Max, this command line tool, and you could then parse through that to figure out what version numbers you had if you wanted to, but it's pretty slow. You can infer some things. You have version whatever of LabVIEW, you must have a similar version of these installed. So I'm just thinking about how would you figure out what you want to bring across to your runtime system. Sam, I can't hear you at all, but there is a horrendous noise. You can see your mouth moving. Or you could just see if certain directories are present. So it's not a great system. So in summary, what do? I use NI Package Builder to make a single installer. I use third-party tool like Setup to make a single small setup program. And you could, in principle, inside of Setup, detect if the runtime is installed already, and then prompt your user to do it. Even in principle, I haven't tried this. Pull it off of FTP server to get your runtime installer and have Setup install it silently. And then tell you to reboot, and you've got everything in one package, I think. So.
Ben, can you hear me now?
Sam, I can just barely hear you. You're very soft. So back 4 years ago when I did this, I did a bunch of research about, is there a easy way to include all this stuff? And I found out this weird thing. Really older versions of LabVIEW have a single runtime file, can just be placed in the same directory. I've never tried it. It sounds kind of weird. And then even weirder, if you have a Mac system, you can append it onto your executable. I have no idea if that still works. It's kind of strange. And then 4 years ago, I found this third-party tool called Build License Track for LabVIEW. You can read about it there if you want, but it hasn't been updated in 6 years. It's kind of weird. I don't know what it's all about. And sometimes in LabVIEW, you can call stuff dynamically, and I don't know how to include that automatically. So that's the end of my presentation. Anybody got any questions or anything about it I'd like to talk about?
How many users do you have?
I have about a dozen users, but I've got about 20 machines that they move around between to set up tests on. So it's nice to be able to just walk up to the machine and install the installer, and it's ready to go in a matter of an hour or something. And the other thing is my main program, that it gets updated fairly often, that prompts them saying, hey, there's a new version, and they know what to do. They know where to go grab the new executable and the setup thing and grab it and get the new version up and running very quickly. So it's pretty convenient. I'm sure I could do something more convenient, and I think John's going to talk about what that would be. So this is sort of a pretty quick and easy way to do it. On the other hand, it's not as robust as it could be. It relies on somebody still going to the machine and clicking on things in the right order and getting stuff up and running that way. So.
Okay.
Better?
Ben, what do you use to prompt your users that there's a new version available?
It's kind of a brute force thing. Is I have the directory on our intranet where the latest file is always stored, and I have a thing inside the program that says what version is the program, what version is the version that's out there, internet, compare them. If they don't match, pop up a dialog box for the user saying, there's a new version, please install it. It's pretty brute force. It's pretty dumb. If I do something goofy with the version numbers, because I'm trying to troubleshoot something, it'll still prompt them to put a new version on, even though it's really the old version that's out there. It's not great, but it's tolerable. So,
Ben, can you hear me now?
yeah, you're good, Sam. Hooray.
Good. Okay, woohoo. Hey, so I had a question. So even though they call this NI package builder, it does not build NI packages for NI.
It does. Yeah, let me go back
Or
to
is
that
a
page.
separate step?
So this page here, this is sort of the blank version. You can pick things in here. I haven't explored any of the windows except these two here.
Okay, so you're in the installers and repositories. So if you went to
Yeah,
the package window, perhaps there's something there to build an NI
yeah,
package.
you can select a project here in inputs and it does something, and I honestly haven't explored what all this other stuff does. Yeah, it's pretty it seems pretty thorough, but honestly I don't know what it's all about. So I guess I failed to mention there's one more thing. So in here, once you've selected some packages or installers here, you can click on each one, and in this properties dialog, you can say it must be installed, or the user can choose to install it with it already checked, or the user can choose to install it with it not checked. So you can do it in whatever, force the user to select things or not. I personally always just make them install everything. So
is that used for the NI package manager then to install other stuff then? If you build a package there maybe, and then you can.
yeah. I honestly don't know what it's all about. I suspect you could build packages that you could then send to some central server and use, and then point, I know in the package manager, you can point to private repositories. I suspect this is how you would build those private repositories.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about it because I don't do that. Maybe John knows about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, great, fantastic. Any other questions or comments about this? Okay, well, let me.
Thank you. Check it out.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's see, can I unshare? No, unshare. Stop share. Okay. All right. I think I'll hand it over to John. Make him the host. Let him present. So, all right, it's all yours, John.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Can you guys see? Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. How about now?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. This presentation is using a SystemLink to manage LabVIEW and TestStand deployments. I want to preface this entire thing with this isn't the actual presentation because I'm still writing it and I'm preparing it for GDevCon in October 20th and 21st in Boulder. If you haven't got your tickets yet, make sure to go check out gdevcon.org and buy your tickets. So this is going to be more of a rough first dry run of this presentation. It's not complete, and it's going to be kind of more of a discussion slash half presentation. I already introduced myself, but I am a CLA, a CTD, and a CPI. The abstract is the next slide, and basically the issue is, you know, getting software to your customer, whether that, in my case, that's actual external customers, but for a lot of you, your employees somewhere, and your customer is internal. But it's kind of the same problem that Ben had just gone through, since he has a lot of internal customers at Micromotion. You know, roughly you've got to get them this giant installer, and they often exceed 1 gigabyte. It depends what you're doing. I do a lot of TestStand builds that are that big, and I do LabVIEW builds that are that big as well. The agenda for this presentation is to go over the traditional deployment strategies, and then go over that specifically for LabVIEW and TestStand. TestStand is a kind of a different animal, and kind of like Ben was alluding to in his presentation. In TestStand, we end up breaking it up into 2 deployments so that we can have a very large deployment that doesn't change frequently, mostly TestStand and LabVIEW runtime. And then the client sequence that might change more frequently is small enough, usually, that we can email it to our customer. It's less than 25 megabytes. It's sometimes less than 10. So that's our traditional way of deploying TestStand, is to deploy this giant 1 gigabyte core and then the smaller client. And Sam's worked on a couple projects with me where he's done that, so I think he's familiar with the process. And then we're going to get into the new LabVIEW strategy and the new TestStand strategy. Again, this is not a complete presentation, so I'm going to get through as many of these slides as I can before I run out of content, because I'm not finished authoring this presentation yet. I have 1 more month before GDevCon, so I'm working on it. So the problem, as I described already, is you know, I'm frustrated with delivering 1 gigabyte installers to my customers, and the cat says, you should try SystemLink. So the typical recipe there is build the executable, build the installer. This is a somewhat more boilerplate than what Ben just described. This is the way most people would do it within the LabVIEW development environment, not using any external tools as the one Ben has mentioned. So you would build the executable, build the installer, and then zip it up and somehow get it to your customer. If they're across the hall, you put it on a thumb drive and hand it to them. If they're across the country, it's like, well, you're not emailing them a 1 gigabyte file. So you could put it on an FTP server. You can even serve it over HTTP, which is less reliable because it can get errors. But that is the basic definition of the problem, is I have these giant installers to deliver. So what is SystemLink? Sorry, I had to throw in one humorous slide. So there's my Groucho Marx. At any rate, moving on. Come to GDevCon, you can see that slide again. What is SystemLink? As defined by NI, this is literally off their page that I just pulled down today. It's kind of a mouthful. I am not going to take the liberty of redefining it. This is NI's elevator pitch of what is SystemLink. I'll give you a minute to read that.
This just sounds like a bunch of marketing BS.
Did you go
Somebody
to the,
stepped in some marketing is tracking around.
Did you go to the partner meeting the other day?
Yeah, that was a waste of my time.
At any rate, this is NI's definition of SystemLink. I'm going to get into more detail. Like I said, I'm not going to take the liberty of redefining it. So going back to our traditional LabVIEW strategy of deploying a runtime executable, the first thing you need to do is create a build spec for an executable. Here's a screenshot. You can see all the tabs on the side. There's a lot of things you can do here. This tab happens to be the version information. So I'm going to call this, whatever application this is, it looks like it's gas test system. 3.2.0.0. All right, I'm going to build that executable. And then the next thing I'm going to do is build an installer for it. And when you build the installer, you've got to include all these dependencies. You guys have done this a million times. You know, you've got GPIB, you got Visa, you know, whatever. There's a bunch of stuff you might need here. Pixie chassis configuration, whatever your application needs, you build all this into the installer. When you're done doing that, after you click the build button, you end up with two things. You end up with an executable, and you can see that its size on disk is about 7.25 megabytes. And the installer grabs that built executable and builds it into the installer. And when I zip that, I end up with a zip file of 1.2 gigabytes. So you can see my problem. I'm not emailing that to my customer. If they're across the hall, which in my case, they never are because I don't work anywhere, I work for myself. How do I get this to somebody? And as I mentioned in earlier slides, that's probably going to be an FTP server. I suppose you could burn it to a DVD and mail it to them through the post office, you know, whatever. It's huge and it's cumbersome. And there's another screenshot of what that zip file looks like. It's just over a gigabyte. I think the previous slide was unzipped. So I saved what, 20% by zipping it? I went from 1.2 gigabytes down to about a gigabyte by zipping it. And now I have a single file I can deliver. Everybody familiar with that process and has done that like a bazillion times in their career? All right, so the new way of doing it, if you have LabVIEW, I believe it's 2019 or later, I'm not certain about the version, you can see that there's a new build specification type called package. And this will indeed create something that NI Package Manager can consume. So you still have to build the executable, and you still have to include that executable in your package build. And by the way, outside the scope of SystemLink, you can literally give this package to somebody without using SystemLink as long as they have NI Package Manager installed, and it will install. You do not have to have SystemLink to do this. Can everybody see this okay, or do I need to expand this? Here, let me try this. Is that
Looks
better?
fine.
Is that better or worse?
It's
The same?
it's fine either way.
Okay. So new build spec, that's a key takeaway from this slide. You used to have executable and installer and source distribution and those things. Now you have a package build spec. And of course, you're going to add the dependencies to this build spec just as you would with an installer. So you can go and select GPIB, NI Visa, Pixie Platform Services, you know, whatever your dependencies are. It's very, very similar to what you've done in the past with the installer build spec. By the way, we're going to run out of slides here really soon. So this is going to be a short presentation. Then I'm going to switch over to the web interface and show you what SystemLink looks like. So the new LabVIEW strategy, I showed you the screenshot of the disk sizes of the output files. Well, now look at what I have. Now I have an executable, same size as before. That didn't change. But now I have a package, a single file that's a package, and it's 7 megabytes. I can email this to somebody, more than likely, unless their email server is really locked down. It'll probably accept this size of a file. If they have NI Package Manager installed on the target system, they can install this package and be up and running. Now you're wondering, well, how does that all fit into 7 megabytes? Well, it doesn't. The package is smart enough to know, to tell package manager that it needs to gather some of these things from NI repositories, which it knows about. And you don't even have to tell it where those repositories are or any of that. I tested this. I was actually surprised it worked, by the way. I didn't think it would work because I thought I would have to do it through SystemLink and add all the repositories. But I thought, well, what if my SystemLink server's down, or a customer wants to get up and running and my SystemLink server's down? Can I just give them this package? And lo and behold, it seemed to work just fine. I haven't done thorough testing on it, but that was my quick observation. So now we've gotten rid of this problem of how do I get this 1 GB plus installer to my customer? Now you can literally email this to them, or you can additionally put it on a thumb drive or an FTP server, all the other old solutions, but you have a much smaller file to work with. Somehow I missed a slide here. 1 second. Yeah, let me go back to this slide because I missed this point. I talked about dependencies where you can add Visa, GPIB, et cetera, into your installer, but what I didn't, the slide I missed was this one. It's called feed. All right, in my case, I have a feed on my on my SystemLink bouldersoftware.com server called customer-project. In this case, you can see the customer and the project name. That's the feed. I have to put in my username and my password for access to my server to post that to the feed. But now, rather than giving my customer a package file for package manager, it is available on my SystemLink server. And one of the things my slides did not get into yet, again, not finished with this presentation, is there is a SystemLink client. So there's a SystemLink server and a SystemLink client. The client is pretty lightweight. It runs in the system tray down in where your clock and your weather and all those things are. And I don't have a screenshot of that at the moment. You simply right click on it and tell it the URL of your SystemLink server. At that point, the administrator has to grant access and allow that system and put it in the right group. And I'll show you all that in a moment. But it's pretty lightweight. It's really easy. If you had to give this to a customer, it's like, here, go install this client and type in this URL and I'll do the rest. It's a lot easier than telling them, you know, your FTP password and, you know, all of that. It's a lot cleaner and smoother. At any rate, we've seen this slide. You end up with a small package. The next slide is a little bit of a tangent because we can also do the same thing in TestStand. So we're out of the LabVIEW realm at this point. And you can see that if any of you have used TestStand and done TestStand deployments, you basically can do these types of installers. You can do a full deployment. You can do an image only. You can do an MSI installer. This package based distribution is something that's been in TestStand for a while, but it was kind of broken in that you had to install 64-bit TestStand to make it work. That has been fixed since, I believe, TestStand 2020. I don't think 2019 had this ability. You had to, in other words, it had it, but you had to add 64-bit TestStand. Now it's in 32-bit TestStand, and I don't have all the screenshots to show you anyway, but suffice it to say that you now have the option to build TestStand deployment packages within TestStand rather than doing the giant core 1 GB installer and then the smaller client installer that I mentioned a few slides earlier. That was the old painful way of doing our TestStand deployments. And like I said, Sam's been through that with me, and he knows, you know, how that works and how painful it can be. This is a much cooler way of doing it. Unfortunately, since I haven't finished this presentation, that's the only TestStand slide I really have. So we're going to move on. One of the questions that comes up with SystemLink is security. And you'll notice if you look at the LDAP URL in the about halfway down this page, you'll notice that I have an LDAP S URL. I'm gonna talk a lot about LDAP in my actual presentation, but today let's just say that it's a way to authenticate users into your SystemLink server. So you can have, at Boulder Software, we use LDAP for everything. We use it to get into our bug tracker, we use it to get into our Git repositories, and we use it to get into SystemLink. So you have one password for all of our tools, and it is authenticated through our LDAP server. If you take the S off of that URL, you are not securely connecting to that server. So I've recently tightened up a security hole there because one of my customers is kind of a security Nazi and has been auditing me for the last 2 months about all of my security stuff. So tighten that one up. And that is, by the way, all of our repositories are also over HTTPS. I should say our feeds off of our SystemLink server. I'm going to talk a lot more about security at GDevCon. If you haven't got your tickets yet, do that. Let's move over to the actual SystemLink software.
John, question for you.
Sure.
So if I understand it right, okay, so they, or can you push updates to them? Can you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, and can then, if you do that, I mean, this is test systems, but let's say you have completely autonomous systems. Can that initiate, run some stuff so you can trigger these guys to go down and get installed and reboot and all those things?
Autonomous meaning not connected to the internet?
Oh, they're connected to the internet, but there are no people around whatsoever, right? So
Yeah, so again, I don't have the slides prepared for this, but I can talk about it. Let's first go ahead and log in and show you what the SystemLink server looks like.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
But I will come back to that, Petter. It's Petter, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So I logged into SystemLink. Here's what you come up with. Just a bunch of icons to hyperlinks. Let's go to the system manager.
I'm not seeing that right now. We still see your,
Oh,
at least
okay.
me.
Let me fix that. Sorry. I don't do a lot of Zoom meetings. Pardon me. Give me 1 second.
You're probably just sharing the PowerPoint window instead of your entire screen.
Yeah. I'm trying.
You might have to stop sharing and then start sharing again.
Yeah, choose stop sharing from the top and then reshare.
Oops. Did I lose my ability to share at this point, or?
No, it's at the bottom. It says share screen, green with the arrow. Click on that, and then if you click on the top one on the left, it should let you share your entire screen.
Okay. I was
And
trying.
then no matter what window you pull up, because that's a huge problem with LabVIEW, right? Because LabVIEW has a bunch of windows. You start sharing one window and then.
Can you see now?
Yep.
So you didn't see me log in. Let me go back. This is when you log in. This is the login screen. Pretty simple, log in. And then you get these icons with links and whatnot. We're going to go ahead and go to System Manager. You'll notice I got six systems under management right now. One of my customers is potentially going to have hundreds of clients for this. And we're trying to figure out the scalability as to how many clients we could have, because it could turn into thousands. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's possible that we would have thousands of clients. When you look at the pending systems link right now, you see that I have 0. But if somebody were to install the SystemLink client, not the server, but the client, and then point it to my server, which you can see is systemlink.bouldersoftware.com, I would have a new pending system. And I would go approve that system and I would assign it to some group, like a particular customer or a particular project for a particular customer. Let's go look at the systems I do have under management. You can see that I have a few customers here that are using it. Not all my customers are using this. I'm trying to slowly move them towards it. So there's some managed systems. Let's go look at this last one. It's called the customer's particle measuring systems, and the project is called NGLC, which is a next generation liquid particle counter. When I go to that system, it's actually down right now. So this software is dynamic as systems come up and down. But we can see if I go to the software tab that I have version 2.4.0 of NGLC installed on that system. Now, Petter, you were talking about pushing things out to it, and I'm going to talk about a few aspects of this. I can actually uninstall it remotely right now, even if that system is halfway across the world. Let me go look at one other system so I can show you something else. In this case, I have something called gas test system 3. Oh, I guess I don't have a version there either. What I was trying to show you is not only can I uninstall it, but I can down rev it. So if I had multiple packages here, for instance, 3.1.0, 3.2.0, I could down level this system from 3.2 to 3.1 if I wanted to. A customer. Go ahead.
Sorry. So if you upgraded, let's say you upgraded something, you know, on I don't know, on a workspace. So now you got 200 machines upgraded, and then you realize, oops. Then you can just select somehow cleverly, just now we're going to downgrade all these guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a real good batch way to do all 200 at the same time, but I think there might be. I'm still learning a lot about SystemLink. I've been working with NI on this for almost 2 years, and I've logged some bugs against some of their LDAP implementation, and there's quite a bit to SystemLink, and it's evolving. So it's matured a lot over the last year and a half, and I expect it to continue to mature as it's a big part of their roadmap. But at any rate, yes, you can at least manually go do that for 200 systems. Can you do it for all of them at once? I don't know about that. At any rate, so you can remotely install and uninstall. So that's kind of cool. Like if your customer calls you that day and says, hey, I got a third system. I installed the client. Can you put the software on it? You just go and click a button and boom, you know, half an hour later or 15 minutes later, whatever, they've got another system. By the way, they can also log into this through my LDAP server. They can be a user and they can come in and manage their own systems. So they don't even have to call me necessarily. They can just kind of say, hey, I want to go upgrade all my systems or downgrade all my systems. Petter, I wanted to come back to your question, and unfortunately, I do not have any screenshots for this, but there's an API. I believe it's called the NI Package Manager API, something like that. You can get it in JKI Package Manager is how you would install that. And it's a fairly sophisticated API. The things I'm doing with it are pretty simple. Let's take this system, for instance. This customer is called Molecular Products, and they have a project called Gas Test System and their currently installed version on this system, on this target system, which is called Gas Test System SL. Let's just go back and look at that for a minute so you can see. Molecular Products actually has right now 3 machines under SystemLink management. This one happens to be one of my virtual machines that I test stuff on. It's not their machine. Let's go back to that machine and we can say, all right, we have Gas Test System 3.2.0 deployed to that machine. You can put these API hooks into your code, your LabVIEW code, so that when it starts up, whether you're using a state machine or a queued message handler or actor framework or Delacore or DQMH, whatever your architecture is, that what you do is at startup, you check this feed and say, is there a newer version of this product? And then you can pop up a dialog and say, hey, there is a newer version. Do you want to install it or not? For instance, what if your SystemLink server's down? Of course, if it was, the dialog wouldn't happen because you'd get an error that says, the SystemLink server's down. So you want to give your user a way to opt out of that update or produce an error that's sensible. But assuming everything's up and running, that API call would say, yes, there is a new version of this product for this feed. And my feeds in my case are kind of tied to customers because I don't want, for instance, a military aerospace customer looking at a Medtronic customer. You know what I mean? They're all separate and secure via HTTPS and LDAPS. So a customer can only see its things. It can't see other customers' things if you set it up right. At any rate, it would come up and say, yes, I have a new version of NGLC, or I'm sorry, Gas Test System, and it's 3.3.0. Would you like to install it? You say yes. And I worked for a long time trying to figure out how to not make that reboot your system, because I hate when you update software and it goes, you must reboot. Anyway, I force a reboot at that point, which is another LabVIEW call you can make in your code. So at startup, whatever my architecture is, state machine, queued message handler, actor framework, whatever, check the thing, see if it's new. If the user updates it, they go ahead and update it, and the SystemLink client that runs down in the system tray will take care of that update for you. It will force a reboot, and when you come back up, you will have new software. And that will be reflected in this SystemLink server so that you can confirm that that client got updated. It's a pretty cool automatic way of getting your customers updates. You don't even, in fact, you don't even have to talk to your customer. You can just say, I fixed a bug. I made a new version. I'm deploying it. Let's see how we deploy that. If we go back to systems dashboard, I'm sorry. If we go all the way back to the very top of SystemLink, we have a package repository. These are also broken up by customer in my case, because I don't want one customer to have access to another customer. So in the case of the gas test system, we can go and look at that, and we can see that, sorry, there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot. This presentation will be a lot cleaner when I'm done with it in October. But you can see that Gas Test System 3.2 is part of that package repository. You can also see all of this other stuff. And the reason that is because I don't think I need GPIB for this customer, but I definitely need NI Visa and LabVIEW Runtime. So I have to go and add all of these feeds to this package repository. Otherwise, when you try to deploy it, it'll generate an error. It'll say you don't have LabVIEW Runtime 2019. So you can go and add that, and there's a number of ways you can add it. You can upload packages yourself that you've built. You can import packages from remote feeds. Those could be NI feeds. Those could be, your own feeds from a different server. I tend to use the import packages from ni.com downloads. And when you get to that dialog, you can say, I want to filter on runtime, for instance. And now I can go and say, I want LabVIEW runtime 2019. And I can add that to this package repository. And now the build will succeed. You won't get an error. The other great thing about this is you don't have this bloated, as I showed in the earlier slides, you don't have this bloated 1 GB file to deploy. You simply put the client on their machine and you point them to this feed, and it goes and grabs all of this runtime stuff from the feed you provide. NI Visa, GPIB, whatever you're deploying. So that's why you see all of these other things in this package repository. I wish they were organized a little bit better, but in this case, I think this is mostly NI Visa, LabVIEW 2019 runtime, and maybe some NI Max stuff that I needed. So another thing I can do with this is I can compare two systems. Oops. So I can say, let's go back to gas test system. Here's my virtual machine, gas test system _SL for SystemLink. And his machines are called, let's say, Chem1PC. I can go and compare these two to see if they have the same software. So if you're replicating like a dozen systems and one of them's not working, you can go and say, well, does it even have the right software on it? Did I even deploy the right stuff? So you can just scroll through that, and obviously these two match. There's a lot more to NI SystemLink than I've talked about today. You can see all the rest of this. There's dashboards. You can, in fact, do data collection, TestStand stuff. You can look at sort of process trends, like what a particular test result may be failing for, or there's a lot to dig into here. And again, I think the maturity of SystemLink has a ways to go. I think it's a huge part of NI's roadmap. I know you guys that are employees internally may not have as much of a need for this, but I still think you could leverage it for your own internal customers. I think there's a lot you could do there. As a partner, I sort of have a free license for this. I can run it, and it works. I think as a person who buys LabVIEW by the version, by the year, you would probably have to license this, and that's kind of a different problem for you. Anybody who's a partner kind of gets to use this. I'm not sure what the license agreement is about that, but it works for me, and nobody's told me I can't use it yet. So
what about your clients? Do they need to pay? Do you pay for every client install?
No, I think the client is free. As far as I know, I believe it's the server that you're going to pay for. Now, I don't know what their licensing model is, but knowing NI, they probably might package that in like, oh, you can have 5 clients or 10 clients or 100 clients. I really don't know. As a partner, I'm kind of it doesn't affect me.
I thought I had looked at the client thing, and I think it depends on what you want to do. So certain things are either free or like no charge or like low charge, and then there's some things that are expensive. Like if you want to be able to push updates, I thought that was like more money or something. I thought there was something like that.
Yeah, I actually heard a couple of $100 a year per client, but maybe that has evolved a lot since a couple of years ago, and maybe they are adjusting those things.
I mean, yeah, and I obviously as a partner, I'm going to adhere to their licensing and the customer I told you about that's potentially going to have hundreds, if not, I doubt they'll have thousands, but I think they will have hundreds of clients. It's such a secure situation that I'm not going to host it for them. There's no way I'm hosting that for them.
Yes, right. That I'm really interested in that because, I mean, this needs to run on a server, right? And where do you host that? How do you do all the security update, maintenance, and everything on your server? How do you protect that in a good way?
Yeah. So a couple of things about that. First, let me complete that thought. My customer has such a secure environment that I'm not going to host it. They're going to have to run their own SystemLink server behind their firewall, and I will help them administer it. I'll help them set it up, but I'm not hosting it for them. There's no way. To answer your question about the security, I have 3 points. The first one is it runs on Windows. So far, it doesn't run on Linux or any flavor of Unix. I don't know if it's in the roadmap, but I am running it on a Windows system. The second thing about the security of that is my feeds. Let's go back and look at this package repository. Let's look at gas test. Let's look at this different one just to change it up a little bit. Look at this feed URL. My feed URL is HTTPS. So it doesn't have to be. It could just be straight HTTP, but then it's not encrypted. So there's one security issue. The other thing I showed you was my slide of so it runs out of NI web server, and you can see that my LDAP connection is LDAP S. So I've locked down the security of this as much as I know how. And I've actually done a lot of security work. So I am not a security expert, but I've done a lot of security work, and I think I've got this locked down pretty well. My LDAP is secure and my web server is secure, and I purchase certificates. By the way, I sell SSL certs. If anybody needs to buy hosting or SSL certs, let me know. That's a side business for me. So those are my 3 points about security, Petter. It runs on Windows, so take that for what you will about security. Don't know if Linux is in the roadmap. And if you're going to allow, let me go back to that slide. You can see that you can authenticate users in a variety of ways. I have selected, I would probably deselect Windows accounts in my case. You can have users that you just create on the server itself that don't have anything to do with Windows or LDAP. By the way, LDAP is kind of a Unix thing, but Microsoft's implementation of it is called Active Directory. If any of you are using that at your employer, some of you may be. That LDAP, and in fact, NI's LDAP implementation for this is very Active Directory centric. I am not using Active Directory. I am using Open LDAP, and it's not very well supported. So if you're going to get into authentication and security, you're gonna have to dig pretty deep to see what SystemLink can and can't do. But you can use Windows accounts, and that would simply be the local Windows accounts, and those might be controlled by an Active Directory server. In my case, I will probably deselect Windows accounts. I was experimenting with it, which is why I have it enabled. But I am only using LDAP right now for my security, for authentication. And yeah, sure. I hope that answered your question.
I think I got some read up to do.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you need some help.
So John, so if it seems like you're hosting all the data for all your clients, right? Or your customers. So if one day, you know, your software development is mature, they don't need you to do any more development. How are they going to separate from you? Because you're hosting their software update.
Yeah, that's a great question. And one I've thought about a lot recently. If you think of things in terms of succession planning, my business has been around since 2004. Someday I hope to not be doing this. It's not that I don't enjoy it, but I have other things I want to do with my life. I started taking flight lessons recently. I obviously have a bunch of guitars behind me, and there's other things I want to do in my life. So someday Boulder software might not exist. I might sell it. I might have somebody else take it over. Who knows? But your question is a good one because the customer is going to have a concern at that point. It's like, oh, Boulder the SystemLink server's gone. It doesn't even exist anymore. In that case, what I do is I deploy the package file to them, the 7 megabyte package file, and that is their installer. And yes, it will check. If you put the hooks in, the API hooks to check for the software updates, it will go and say, hey, is there a new update? And it'll fail because the SystemLink server isn't available. But the software will just move on at that point because you can ignore the error and still run. So that is effectively detaching from Boulder software at that point. Another way to do it is take those hooks out so that it never checks for updates, or put another dialog in that says, do you even want to check for updates? At that point, they are completely detached from Boulder software. They can take the package file that I generated for them and still install their software 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Well, assuming, assuming runtimes still work on whatever platform they're on at that point. I mean, people say software doesn't age, but platforms do. And as platforms age, software doesn't work on it anymore.
Oh, thank you. How do you comment on Log Me In? I believe you know it.
Like a remote desktop?
Oh, sort of, yes. Log Me In is called.
Yeah, I used to use that. Now I use TeamViewer. It's just a remote access to a system. Some of my customers give me access.
Okay, thanks.
What else do you guys want to see about SystemLink, or what other questions might you have? Sorry for my sort of sporadic presentation. I'm still authoring it. It's going to be tightened up a little bit by the time I do GDevCon.
No, it's good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
I'm going to stop sharing and let Ben take back over.
I think you can just hand it straight over to Petter if you'd like. That might be a little quicker.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I know how to do that.
It seems like I can just take it from you. I don't know why, but I can.
Yeah, because I'm not.
Okay, let me grab it.
Yep, that worked. Thank you. It was easy.
Okay, so this is also thrown together, but John, I have a different use case. Let me show that use case for you, and then you're going to see I'm really I'm really interested in the SystemLink server, but scared of all the security aspects. So I'm going to talk about SystemLink Cloud instead, which is a very, very small part of the SystemLink server portfolio. Let's just start here and talk a little bit about my use cases. If we can see that. Okay, so in this connected society that we have, you know, a lot of people have they want instant access to all the data, what's going on, get notifications, and all these things. Oh, my headset is dying. Let me hold on a second and put on another one. And I got two use cases. One is something that's ongoing right now, and we got an instrumentation here to measure. We got an airplane. It's a Cessna 400, and it includes all kinds of instruments. And instrument test flight is going to go for tomorrow, and we're going to fly for Colorado Health Department. Our group provides fast methane and fast ethane, and we're going to fly Colorado according to, let's say, the flight plan here down on the left-hand side. And that what you see is fracking site, compressor plants, and such things. And Colorado Health has been monitoring this for quite a few years and want a little bit more precise data. And our group at CU Boulder, I'm an instrument builder, more or less. That's what I do, laser-based spectrometers. And you can see this is our repackaging to fit on this aircraft. And we are there together with mass spectrometers, ozone, NO2 meters, other methane sensors, and so forth. And we're going to fly along this pattern. And depending on how the wind goes, you fly upwind of stuff, and then you fly downwind, and you know what the wind is, and then you can calculate the mass balance and see how much these guys are letting out. It's pretty busy. Pilot is busy. We got one operator, and there's 6-7 instruments. And she's keeping track of all of that, and maybe something changes. So we want to share this data somehow with the planning unit on the ground if we're going to change. Now you should know, especially for John, I mean, flight plan and not flight plan, we're not filing any IFRs. We are just going to say which area we're going to work in roughly, so they know that, and we can change the FR, whatever we want to do inside that. So we are not in controlled space, so to say. Anyway, so we want to share this in an easy way, right? And one way to do this, we're running Linux-based single board reuse here, headless systems. There's for the operator, and I showed that on a presentation last year, that you can run a web server on these systems, and the user can interact with that. So I don't want my users to have anything installed, anything, but they should be able to see what's going on. So we're going to stream some data from this aircraft down to the ground unit, to the planning. And how can we do that in a reasonable way without they needing to install anything? And we're gonna look at SystemLink Cloud to do this. So this is just a single easy stream and such thing like that. Let's go for another use case. And that is what I do my other half of the time. We build these kinds of units, the methane sensing systems. These are laser-based. They're really precise. They're really expensive compared to our competitors, but they do a really, really good job. And the use case here is your operator, which is usually an oil company. What they can do is actually, they can rent such a plane, right? And they can fly around over all the oil wells and see if there's leaks. And if they have mass leaks, we have not we, but some other guys They flew a 5-day campaign for, how's it called? I can't remember. The old company was Crown something. And they realized all the leaks they had. They were able to tighten them down, and the immediate savings were $400,000 in a couple of days for those leaks. Ongoing, right? Okay, anyway, so what do you want to have here for your user? You want them in a browser to, instead of going around, because that's what they typically do today, we have the aerial surveys with planes, and they're coming this point monitoring, so you put them on site. This thing will monitor the fracking site or the oil site, and for emission events, and notify you, okay? So instead of going out there, checking, that's what they usually do. They drive around and check and check. They get back to every site every 3 months. Now they will have 24/7 monitoring, and they will know within minutes or within a day or whatever it's needed to get a notification, not 3 months for a leak. And who said, let's say there's a leak 1 day after they checked, they will not notice it for 3 months later. So this is showing compliance. If there's going to be compliance, there's safety for your people out at the site. You don't have the leaks. Also safety for people, because driving out to some of these sites can be really dangerous, and it costs a lot of money to every truck roll. You only go where you need to. And what do you want for such a thing then? You want a map. You want to see all your assets. You're going to see which are in compliance and not in compliance. You want to see what the current state. You want to look at the history. You want to set alarms to get notifications. You want to look at event logs. There can be leaks, but there's also production parameters that leak. So it's a part of the production to leak to some extent. You want to somehow import and export data to these guys because they have their own systems. They want to compare it. Or do you want to import production parameters from their SCADA systems so you can see, and then you can trigger that together with when you see leaks and understand more what's going on. And of course, this is cellular stuff. And sometimes the only tower that's out here that's reachable goes down for service a day. What do you do with that data? So you need buffering. Okay, let's just see. We have a home built solution, which looks like this. And it's all cool. You can get what you want, but we have a guy that we pay to do all this stuff for us. And it's kind of good and bad, because if something happens, then you are a little bit bad off, right? So let me just show you what you can see here. You got the sensor on the right, just a picture of it. And then you actually have the site on the left. You see the sensor in the blue, it monitors 3 fracking sites at this point. And what it does, it's wind blows from different directions, and that usually turns around in 24 hours or something like that. But so that means that if we get, and every time we look at a certain direction, we know where the assets are. There is a yellow there, it's the wellhead. We have some compressors, that's orange down there, that seem to leak a little bit. And then we have some tanks, they don't leak and so forth. So when the wind comes in from a certain distance, we can back calculate with inversion models that runs on the single board radio. How much would that leak be during this atmospheric conditions? How much would it, what would we measure here? So we can back calculate the read rates. And then we put that in event logs. We send notifications through emails and such things. But all these things, you know, workspaces, different oil companies, security, and all those things, it can get a little bit dicey. So then looking at more commodities that's out there, and NI is among one of them. Anyway, in US, there is 400,000 fracking sites, 400,000 sites that needs to be monitored. So the market is huge. Okay. What do we have? So what kind of services can we use then if we don't want to use our home build stuff? We can use SystemLink. We have, John talked about SystemLink server. What he didn't talk about was this way of streaming customer data, custom data, and I'm going to talk about that. I really like the server version. I'm just a little bit afraid with all the requirements I have on myself to run a server or do that. So we're going to look at the cloud version instead. Of course, there's third-party solutions out there. You can build this stuff if you have the skill set with IBM Watson, for instance, or the Google. Cisco have some solutions. All these solutions comes out to be depending on what scale you are in, but if you're in tens of systems, then it becomes really pricey. And there are some third-party other vendors like Initial State, Ka, EOT, Finger. I just took a few of them that does a really good job. And what you don't have at this point in the cloud version, in the server version, you have all these other modules that you plug in there. You know, you can share the data. John talked about the asset module. There's test modules. You can implement Python code. You can run all these kinds of stuff on your server to do more intelligent stuff, which you cannot do on the cloud version. It's more like, what should I say, present. You acquire data in the sense you push it up. You can't really do much, you just present it at this point. I bet NI is working on this because there's a hosted solution from them, and it just takes away all the things from a small operator like us to have someone else that takes care of your security, redundancy, uptime, scalability, and all those things. The cloud version has, for us as partners, or if you get an SSP, then you have 10,000 tags that you can push. And if you do your namespacing with your workspace the right way, you can get this really nice and separate things out. Now, workspaces are not there yet on the cloud. There are no alarms, there are no notifications, which makes it kind of a no-no for us at this point. But I just want to show you how easy it is to get this up and running. I bet because they have everything on the server version right now, they have a lot on the server version. So I bet this is going to come to their hosted version as well eventually. It's very limited how much data you can push. So storage for an account here is tags is 100 megabytes. So it's more like a presentation. It's to present stuff. It's not to save stuff really. For us, we want the user wants to go back for a whole freaking year. We're pushing, data is pushed like at 1 hertz, 10. So we got 10 different values pushed every second. And that builds up quite a bit in the round. Okay, so let's leave that and start looking at what you can do with the cloud version. Just interrupt me if you have any questions. Okay. So we're going to manage some security here. We're going to start off there. And what you need to do anything here is that I usually put, I make API keys for all my different instruments. Now we only have, just to show you something here, right? You see the SystemLink, right? You do, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So you start off with creating a key. And you name this key, and it can be a certain serial number or whatever you have. And you copy this key, and this is the only time you'll get to this key, right? And then you sign it to policy, right? So let's say all your systems, all your system that publishes data, all our sensors that publishes data, what are they allowed to do? Maybe not allowed to query files, but they can upload files. I would say it's a little bit strange how they've done this, but anyway, so here is the different options they have here, what you can do. Our systems, they do publish this stream of tags, data. They do also actually push, they call Google APIs and make images as well, embed them, and they also generate reports. it's not where you want to go really, but many of your customers just want to have it in a spreadsheet and see what happened so they can run it against some of their other stuff. Anyway, so then you set this one up, and this can be different for maybe you have a user policy, so they can't do stuff, right? And in SystemLink server, my understanding is you can build those workspaces. So one organization like oil company X, they have access to this sensors, they can do this and that. On the cloud, it's just free floating the whole thing. So you can't really separate things here. You got to have a new instance of SystemLink Cloud for every customer. So we are not really there yet with SystemLink Cloud, but I hope it's going to come. But for us pushing some data and such things, that's fine. So, okay, API keys for all your instrumentation. Your users can get in here as well, and they have to log in through, and they have to create an account with NI, right? And then you can link that account to what they can see here, for instance, right? So they will own, so you say this email address will have access to this account, okay? And if they have an account on NI, they can access it. If not, they will get an invitation to create that. That's how it's done right now. And so, okay, so the best thing that would happen here is that workspaces comes in, and I think that's going to happen. Okay, so we got the keys, we got the policies, and then let's before we go on here, then we have the data, which has the tags, whatever you want to publish. It can be booleans or whatever, right? And you have files that can be uploaded. So we got the files here, for instance, from our sensors, and you can go in here and you can download a file, and you can look at that. And here we got an error report from the sensor. We can see, well, that seems to be a I2C error, blah, blah, blah. System state, I can look at a few different things here, what's going on in it. So our sensor sends an error report. And for me then, as an administrator, I want these ones to go separate. The customer shouldn't see them, and you can't do that in SystemLink Cloud yet, okay? Anyway, so while files that are reports, we would like them to see. We got storage, and as I said, there's not much storage here. They will last for a couple of weeks, and then we're done with it, right? So my hope is also that there will be some tier pricing plans or whatever. That's actually, I mean, if you have a couple of gigabytes, you're fine for a very long time. 100 megabytes, not much. Okay, and we got a couple of tags, and we're going to look how they become made here. Let's see here. So, okay, let's make this easy. So what we do is we go in and we grab we search for SystemLink, okay? And it's a little bit cool here. So this is not having any SystemLink clients. That's more on the management side that John was talking about to do that. We are still installing tag writers or tag readers. So you could actually, in the cloud, have tags that goes down to control things. You can send messages and do all kinds of stuff, and your sensors could react to that and say, hey, we need to do something, right? And you can also get messaging from your devices up to the cloud and take actions on that. But we're going to start out easy here, and we have something called write multiple clients. And what I did, if you remember, we had the API key. I copied that down and I pasted it in here. Okay, now it's pasted. So that's how we will get access. If we look at the code, we're not going to look too much at the code, but there is a nice SystemLink palette in LabVIEW, which you can play around with file transfers, the tags, messaging, alarms, can do all kinds of stuff. But what you do here is you have to think about your namespacing very well and how it's going to work against your later on when you have workspaces. So I think everything there with the workspace is going to build on namespaces. You have to have a good strategy. But more or less, if you don't have a strategy, it will take the name on the VI you have, and then we can look at the namespace. So first, you just create the tag. You tell what type it is. And here, this is not in the example. if you're just going to try to run the example, let's see here. Here's the connection to SystemLink with API key. Look at this. Don't forget this duration thing here, because if you try to do any of these examples and this guy is not there, you won't see anything. It just won't work. It's just going to say, no data in this time period. But you need to put some retention on this guy, and we can have duration, or we can have permanent, or whatever, right? And what's going to happen if you have permanent, that means that as soon as it runs out of 100 megabytes, it's going to go very fast, actually. Then it's done. Okay. And then what you do, you create your tags. And I'm not too fancy. This is 2019. I don't know if they changed it, but I'm not too fancy how they becomes a little bit kludgy if you have like 50 tags and such things. I've done it a little bit differently. You generate some random numbers here, 470 degrees, and they bunch them up and you push them out SystemLink. This can be done with HTTP then, which means that we can go through all the firewalls. We don't need to think about anything. But the payload, and we can see that on our tracking monitoring system, this payload is huge, right? It's just a lot of overhead. It's easy to work with. It's super easy to work with HTTPS and building those things. They do support AMCP as well. I don't know if they do MQTT. I can't say it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we're going to start up this running here on this Windows machine, and they will hopefully start publishing down here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's go in SystemLink Cloud, and this is what we see actually here. This is my desktop machine. So it starts with that. If you don't define it, so you can define it to something smart. Multiple tags, inside and outside temperatures, and you can then here actually, let's see here. You can see the current values. If you keep renewing this, you can see that they will change these guys. Let's see here. Yeah, it's hard to see. Okay, so there we have our data. Let's go for the visualizations. There's a few different tools for that. Let's look at the dashboards. There is a simple tile board, which just looks like they created some of this other stuff, you know, in that John was using in this. And it's pretty simple. You go to edit mode and you say, I want, let's see here. Come on. You have a new tile and you say what you want to do here. I would look at something. Okay, what tag? And then if you have the namespacing right, you write something up and say, hey, I want to look at the outside temperature. I want to set some properties. You can do very little here actually, but okay, there we go. And then we run it again. And there you are, running your first values, right, guys? It's so easy, and you can go back here and look at what happened. And in the data stuff that we looked at before, you can on the tags, you can mark a tag here, and you can even here, if the tiles are not working for you, you can go in here and say, I just want to look at this, guys. Yeah, okay, right? You can see it here. So they have some simple viewers for that, and you can delete, download, or whatever you want to do. Okay, let's go back to visualizations. Okay, so there is a different format here, which is called the free tile, and you can do a little bit more with that actually. Let's see, was this the one I wanted? Oh yeah, of course, the format here is totally wacko. Let's see if we can get it right. Oh, please, guys. And this is about to suggest this free tile gives you more options, and it's supposed to adjust for mobile devices or whatever. You can do these things. I think I messed that up pretty badly here. Let's just see if we can get it working. Free tile. Let's see. No, it's not going to play along with me. Anyway, you can see the same stuff here. We can embed stuff. We can embed. Let me see if I can get this working. Hold on a second. Because I really want to show this one because it's okay. Now let's do this. Let me change my sharing here to this one. Okay, so this is the free tile. And so it gives much more options to manipulate things than those simple ones. So we can embed cameras, for instance. So this is iframes. We can put maps on it and mark things, put them different color codes depending on things that you send through your tags. Here's another iframe. So if you want to incorporate some other service, of course, this guy doesn't want to work right now. Doesn't do it. Anyway, and you can see here, this one is another fracking site, right? And how do I get this up? Yeah, I have a tag where I actually send the Google API call up. So in the tag is the Google API call, and I have it as an iframe. So this guy will do the call when there is a change in the tag to Google API and just download the picture to add my data, my point data, my concentration data, and just call the Google API. So there is a lot of stuff you can do more here and build. And you can, for instance, you can make some of these controls. They will gather in a certain namespacing all your sensors, and the user can select what they want to look at and such things. My understanding is that I'm not really sure that NI is going to spend much more time on this guy. They want you to do something different, and that's what we're going to look at right now, talking about this package stuff. Okay, so let's just go back. Let me change my sharing again to this. So there are those 2-3 things, but I haven't seen any really new features for a few years on this guy. So I don't know, right? I think what they want to do, and I don't have the new web builder, but I have the NXG web module, which I use to build my local web interface that I showed last time I was showing something for my users to run against the web server on my Linux machines. Okay, so now we're back in that world, and we have something. We're going to program something that goes against SystemLink Cloud. And in the palette here, before was programming, internet, and we were doing HTTP calls for local HTTP server. Now this time we're going to use the SystemLink, and you can do configuration messages and tags. And this is just one of the examples they have there. So I just want to show you. You bring them up. You say you want to use the web module in NXT, or you use the web module. I think that's what they call it, because NXT is kind of dead or whatever that is. Okay, you do the call. Program is up. Then you say you're going to have selection here. I just hard coded this, right? This is the tag I want, and it's a double tag. This is the other tag I want. And this is the tags we were sending, right? And then we just loop through this every second, and then we close the connection to SystemLink. And here I have a different API key. It's more like a user key, so it can just grab data. It's not allowed to do anything else in the policy. Okay, and I can test this. Let's just test run it. So I test run it here, and let's see here. So we're pushing on them, and then we see, okay, so on the LabVIEW side, we're pushing everything up, right? And we could see it on the web interface and the tile stuff. And now we can see it here because we do the calls. What you cannot do on the tile stuff is you cannot look at history. I want to look at this time period and this. The only way to do that is actually to go in here and bring up the palette here and say that I want to, let's see, hold on a second, tags, history. Here is the set point. Here is the set point. So now you have to build your web interface here towards SystemLink. This is how it's going to look like. You have an event structure. New feature that put in is a lot of property nodes. I saw that was coming along. I don't have it here, but I seen they added that. You can add your own code if you want to. If you know HTML, you can add that to this, or Java, or whatever you want to paste in here. And I'm going to direct you to something for that a little bit later. But so this is what you have. This is a little bit annoying because you can't like really probe things, at least not in my version, and this is just 3.1. I want to probe what's happening. So you have to take out controls and see what they looked like and go back and forth. But at least, you know, we can run it and test run it and we see it works. Okay, we're fine with that. Now, what you do here is you go down and say new package installer or distribution here. And what's going to happen here is, so I have this one application distribution here. And so I wasn't clear here. There's a lot of stuff going on this side, but you have your application, which can be a lot of different HTML VIs or SystemLink VIs, whatever you coded here. So my application is called application, and I have this function here. For it to work with SystemLink, I'm just saying that it needs to be called the index of function or any of their reserved stuff. Don't try to make up something of your own. It's not going to work. So you have that here, and you create a distribution. Okay. In this distribution, you just drag down in here your application, what you have. Okay. So first of all, I didn't say that, but first you create an application composition, then you create your web VIs, and I already done that. And then you drag it over to your distribution, and now it's going to figure out all the dependencies and everything, and you say, I want to have a package here. A package is what I want, right? And then you are building it, and it starts building it, and after a while it's built, and it didn't fail like it did for me before. And you will have a package down here. Okay. And what you do now, back to your dashboards, visualizations, web VIs now. So you can say upload, and here it says, give me the package. So you drop your package in here, okay? And it's going to end up like this. Okay, let's just click this package here. Oh, there it is. And it runs in a web browser, right? There we go. It's pretty rudimentary, but you can get something done very fast and show proof of concept. Now, of course, how do we share it? So what do we do? Let's go over here on this side, and we say share. And we can put the email address in here. Some email address that's registered with NI, they will get access to this account to just see everything, right? This is how rudimentary it is at this point. But if we say everyone, okay, we do that, copy link, and we say apply that rule. Okay, copy, close. Let's just bring up Safari. Now we got Safari. And I have no logins, that doesn't know anything. I just put that freaking link in there, right? Now here we go. So you can just share this. Well, anyway, now we can get, so this is how I would, for instance, you know, get the data from the aircraft down. I will just give this link to my boss, and he can sit and get people annoyed on the aircraft saying, go there, I see what's going on, change everything, right? Okay. I think that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you guys a flavor for what you can do with 2 use cases. That's long ways to go on the cloud, so it's not really, I wish it was much further. If I could feel safe about the server, I would probably go there, because then you can do workspaces and divide up all your users, right? You need to silo these guys from each other. But every user interface has to be made, either you know what you're doing and can code that yourself, or you are locked into the web VIs, what they can do. It's kind of limited right now, but you can do something fast at least. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's really interesting that it's so easy.
Super easy. Yeah. Questions?
Yeah. I don't have any questions.
Don't ask him something. He will talk for another half hour, right? So.
Well, we've got 10 more minutes. I'm sorry we didn't get to Sam.
Sam, I forgot you. Sorry.
I have a question, Petter.
Yeah.
It's John. Sorry, I'm off camera at the moment. So one of the reasons I use server as opposed to cloud is like I said, I'm a partner, and I don't think I didn't have to worry about a license or a payment or fees or anything. My partner software just kind of allows me to activate things because I pay NI every year for my partnership software. Do you have a cloud license? Is CU paying for your cloud license or?
Yeah, so this is, I'm on my CU account here right now when I do this shows, yes. So CU has this, as soon as you have an SSP, this is included for now at least, right? And I think if you want to buy this, it's like 700 a year or something like that. And if they just had some better storage, it's good, it's really good, you know? I mean, you can have, if they had a lot of storage, you have 10 tags, you can have 1,000 systems on it, right? They claim to have the ingestion working for that. So, but I do know, yeah, I'm a partner on the Quanta 3 side as well. So it's fine, but I don't know what's gonna happen when we start running thousands. You know, I don't know if they are still gonna say this is within that partnership, right? I don't know, no. Or you tie it up for every customer has to have their own kind of account stuff. I don't know. It's kind of super nice if you could get everything, right? You could do everything in the server. I wish the server just get on the cloud so I don't need to deal with the safety of it. Then you could deploy, you could do the updates, you could do you can do the whole thing, right? So nice it would be, right?
And you don't, I mean, it seems to me like that's the way they would be moving. You don't think that is their roadmap, or?
I think they are. It's just, I need it now. I want to move off the home build stuff at this point because I mean we might scale up and I don't want to deal with that. So that's why we're looking at other solutions. This would be super easy for me to get going, right? But I probably have to bite into one of those other providers, which do have really cool stuff actually, you know, but there's a lot of more job to get it rolling, much more job, right? So no, I think they will come eventually. I think that they somehow, and I still living in the prem world, right? Where everyone else is moving off that. They still, but maybe that's the whole test concept. That's how it works, you know, so.
Well, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, Petter and John. It's really interesting stuff. I've recorded this. If anybody wants the recording, I can push it up to somewhere. I don't know where. If you would like to upload your presentation to the alarm site, that would be nice. That'd be great.
Okay.
And I guess the other thing is in 2 months, it would be nice if we had another one of these, and it'd be great if somebody could volunteer to do that. I'll put something up on the alarm website saying, please volunteer for in 2 months, but it'd be nice if we could keep this rolling again. Maybe we can start meeting in person again someday soon. So. Thanks everybody. Thanks for showing up. And
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad I could get motivated to do this. So, all right. Thanks everybody. Have a good evening, and I'll see you soon, I hope.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
I weighed myself.
Great, thanks.
And
Yeah. All right. Good night.